Totally dependable, plumbing and electrical. 0800 get laser.
Celebrating 25 years of Laser, I'm Kyle, the GM of Laser Group, and this is Laser Across the Network, where legacy meets leadership.
The key is that whilst we're reasonably prepared, we're not going in there with the answers to what we think their problems are. So you go in there with a pretty open mind. And for some of these guys, there could be a lot of stuff going on. So being that coaching role with 2 ears, 1 mouth.
From a role of a BPM, and we haven't actually defined business performance manager yet, and it might be known as a member support manager, it might be known as a field manager across the industry, but when you're talking about whether it's marriage counselling, whether you're working with them and things that they might be, in this instance, bickering about, but things in the business that they're talking about could be anything from invoicing to marketing to looking at the margins. So what are you guys doing week to week that is supporting members in the things that they need?
Well, all that really, we've already touched on. It depends on where they are in their business life cycle and also with the changing market as well. I mean, gosh, there's, in the new housing side of things, the market's been quite buoyant for a number of years. As we all know, it's hit a bit of a speed bump. Business owners are having to do marketing that they haven't had to pretty much in their working life when it's in their time with Laser, 20 odd years. For them, learning a whole new skill and finding the time and the know-how to do that, pointing them in the right direction on how to get a marketing plan underway, making sure their websites are up-to-date and current. Something Neil's been really reinforcing is about their Google reviews, because people are searching and everything's online.
But then, and Neil, this is for you, I think to turn up to a trades business owner and tell them what they have to do isn't going to curry favour, it's not going to win friends, right? So how do you do that from a coaching perspective, and what are the benefits for those tradespeople?
Yeah, I guess the key is that whilst we're reasonably prepared, we're not going in there with the answers to what we think their problems are. So you go in there with a pretty open mind. And for some of these guys, there could be a lot of stuff going on. So being that coaching role with 2 ears, 1 mouth, spending a lot of time listening to what's going on and then helping them, I guess, prioritise where they need to focus their energy.
Why would someone in Northland go, Ron, you've called out to me for a member in Auckland looking for help around marketing, for example. I'm in Northland, there is no benefit to me helping that person in Auckland, so why do they do it?
It's part of the Laser ethos, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess the great thing with Laser and the events that those members get the opportunity to build relationships. So whilst they're in completely different areas, they've probably met each other at conferences and seminars, they've shared a beer, they've talked over various other topics beforehand, so it's not a cold relationship. At the same time, Ron's probably, or myself, we've probably done a lot to help that member, so you can sort of leverage off that. They know that we've supported them with various things, so it's their turn to support us. In most cases, our members have all had the chance to catch up with each other previously.
And just from the other side of the fence, right? So we're a network of 105, 106 members. How would a independent business benefit from coming into a fold like that, for example?
I've got a new member, so he's been working, he's had his own brand for a number of years, operating a bit of a silo mentality for a long time. So he's been fighting his own battles and he's had no support. So all of a sudden he's come into Laser. He's just managed to build this network of support around him. So when it comes to putting in place a game plan, he's got all these experienced members that have been through the same challenges he has. They can share their lessons, so what has worked for them, what hasn't worked, all of a sudden he can leapfrog ahead.
That could probably be quite intimidating for a young fella in this instance to come into that network of 100 people and adopt that. So what have you done to help him bite down on that?
The big thing is don't be afraid of putting up your hand. So everyone's been through these challenges before. Where you're at in your business life cycle, you've got a long way to go, but by being vulnerable and acknowledging that you've got all these opportunities, you're in a far better position to learn, right? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with opening up your books and sharing your challenges with other members, because that's how you'll get the support.
Because all of a sudden he's not by himself, right?
Yeah.
He's got people around him that he can tap into and have support. I'd imagine for those business owners who are outside Laser, it'd be jeepers. It's pretty tough out there as it is, trying to do it all on your own with knowing that you can rock up to another Laser member and they're not a competitor, they're a mate.
They're a mate.
Can I jump in around that, Ben?
Absolutely.
With that benchmarking, I guess the key thing is, like, a lot of our members are doing a similar job, right? But for every $100 they invoice out, what drops out the bottom can vary vastly. So in the ideal scenario, we want to see our members have more spit out the bottom than not only where they were a few years ago, but the competitors as well. So that benchmarking allows us to identify where those opportunities are, and then through planning, right, we can help them go, okay, if this is what the numbers look like at the moment, this is where the group's sitting at, what steps can we put in place to help you get there?
Because it can be, part of it is getting the member to understand their numbers as well. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Do you think there's an element here where what you're talking about with regards to benchmarking behaviours in the business, that the business owners you guys work with know what they're not doing, and your influence there is the gentle push that they need, or is it that it's the unknown for them?
Both, because if I go to one of my members, so he's well behind on his invoice, right? But that's also because he doesn't enjoy doing it. But you can't run a business if you're not invoicing out on a timely manner, because you'll have no cash. And the reason a lot of us are in business is because we want money, right? In that instance there, you're creating accountability. Like, they know what they should be doing, but they're just not doing it. It's much like a kid with homework probably at times, So you're just trying to set some steps for them to do it. But then there's other cases where they may just have no idea what they're not doing, right? So it varies between educating them in some instances versus telling them, would it be fair to say, Ron?
Working smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
The shout about the member who doesn't enjoy invoicing and so it falls to the bottom of the list could apply to quote follow-up. It might apply to having one-on-ones with your team. It might apply to doing your health and safety checks, right?
Yeah.
How do you, because it's a fine line that you tread between nagging and accountability that you talked about. How do you do it?
Neil will be very good in this space, but coming back around to, with a changing market and members having to do stuff they hadn't done before, one is quote follow-ups, right? They haven't had to, and then all of a sudden every man and his dog's chasing that same job. Gosh, I've got to pick up the phone and ask for that quote or job. Some can find that intimidating. Neil has been doing a lot of work in that space, making it a lot easier for the members.
With automation, and I think you might have rattled off like 4 or 5 things which they need to do, and I guess it's also recognising that in some instances the member won't be in a position to do all those on a regular basis, and at the same time, do we need to help bring in someone to support you doing those things, because our members will get to different stages in their business where they need to bring on staff to support them. And I guess the great part about Layers is we recognise where those steps are, because they'll get to a point where it just gets bloody hard and they've got to push through it or drop back. At that point, that's where they've got to bring someone else on to support them. Then that role, it might be outlining set processes for that person to do and ensuring that that's done.
Maybe for the example, Ron, I gave of the person in Northland helping out the person in Auckland, people have been through those things, and so they can see themselves in the stories you're talking about. But for the person who's got to push through it or retrench back, goes, this person did it, and this is the success they've had and the benefits that have come from that. And I think that's a really important thing. What are the 3 things, in your opinion, a trades business must have in place?
A competent admin person, a plan of some sort in place, whether it's a 5-year or 10-year plan, so they know what direction they are taking and how they want to get there, and utilising the systems. Should be looking at the system as a tool to run their business. I'm talking about Laser Pro here. So if they can get the full benefit out of Laser Pro, then that'll greatly assist them in running their business as well.
Good. What about for you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed because, Ron, you've stolen a couple of my notes, mate, so I'm going to go with 2.
Agree,
desire and grit, because you've got to have the desire and then the grit to push through those hard times. Because as a business owner, none of our guys that have been around for a long time that are really successful have got there without their challenges. And there's been plenty of times where they've probably looked at things and gone, I'd much rather be on wages and not having to worry about these debts or paying the guys and all these sorts of things. But through pushing through that, they've got to the point where they really see the fruits, because there'll be a lot of times it's really, really challenging and you're going to be doubting yourself. To Ron's point before around the right people, if you've got the right people, life becomes a lot easier. So when you're looking at your hiring and you're managing your staff, putting the effort in to get the right person and to make sure they know what's expected of them, but then at the same time, really acknowledging them when they've done a great job.
So how does coaching an individual like that benefit those guys? Because we've talked about benchmarking and systems and the want and need to do those things, but they're still run by people. And so how do you get the best out of a person as a business owner?
It's understanding the why and taking a pretty deep approach with understanding our members and getting to know them. So if we know them really well and are not taking a generic approach in terms of how we're building a relationship, I think you can understand their triggers. It's relating it back to what they're looking to achieve and how doing those steps are going to help them, reach their end goals. It could be that they want to retire at 55 or 60, and all these things that we're putting in place now are going to be helping them, work towards that. If it's reaching a better value for when they go to sell their business, if it's making it more attractive for someone to buy in, all these things that we're working towards now towards that end goal.
You've mentioned selling a business.
Yeah.
When you say selling the business with more value, how do you deliver to that?
Well, I guess it's understanding what makes a business valuable for starters. Things like good forward work, having strong conversion, good margins, good systems and processes. All these things help deliver a better value for a business, and that's a foundation for Laser. We're helping our members build more valuable businesses in a nutshell.
I think there's two things in that for me, right? You get a business owner or a business buyer who comes in and sees value in a business to grow it. And I think the other thing is you open up a wider pool of buyers than that narrow focus of I'm an electrician, so I must sell to another electrician.
Yes.
And I'm an electrician who's a business owner who can sell to an investor.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite an important distinction. You guys have other responsibilities in terms of facilitating groups and performance groups specifically, right? Like what's that mean for you, Neil, and how does that benefit members?
How a performance group works is that we bring members together from around the country. So they could be sparkies and plumbers. We catch up for a day. As part of that, the BPMs, so Ron, Sam, myself, will deliver a topic, but at the same time facilitate a lot of discussion. It could be on sales and marketing, it could be on leadership, it could be on tricks within SimPro. So there's a big part of that is the learning, but then there's the social side, getting out and having a few beers and having a nice meal. And I guess whilst that sounds like the fun stuff, that's also the stuff that builds the relationships. Recently, we had 2 members from the performance group. So one flew down to the other's business and spent a day with their staff learning how to use different parts of SimPro. So that was something that the members did without any instigation from us. That took no motivation from Laser. That was all off their own back.
How do you leverage Laser, and what doors does Laser open for the benefit of these performance groups? So I'm specifically thinking about getting into Google, right?
Laser has quite a close relationship with Mighty as a marketing provider. So through that relationship with Mighty, who had a relationship with some people at Google, we managed to arrange a tour of the Google offices in downtown Auckland. If an individual Laser business tried to do that on their own, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Or an independent business, right? For a network of 105 odd members, we don't need to be the experts in anything. We can leverage the relationships and the scale of the group to deliver benefits.
With Mighty, our marketing agency that we're aligned with, they work with some of the biggest brands in construction, right? So they know the industry really well. And for a number of our performance groups, I've been involved there. So our members have had the opportunity to spend an afternoon with a marketing agency supporting them with plans to, grow their brand in their areas. That's something that would be out of reach for most independent businesses unless they're investing a significant amount of money.
If you had to finish with one tip for a member or a business listening to this, what would that be?
Be inquisitive around what's going on in your business. So for a lot of our members, they'll shy away from the things that don't interest them. And that could include things like the P&L, but try to be inquisitive around what's going on in your business and those numbers, because you really want to understand what's going on in your business. And I guess we're that sounding board when things don't make sense.
If you understand your numbers, then you can know where to look.
That's where I'll finish too from an analogy point of view is I'm a dad to a couple of young kids, as you well know, and I'm out there on a Saturday morning coaching my kids at football, and then you've got the All Blacks who are playing in the weekend and they've got a coach. And then if you think about that from a business perspective, you've got the fledgling careers who get a coach, and you get the top echelons who get a coach, and all in between, they think, oh no, I know it, or I'm not going to be better. And so that would be a really good reason for me to say, bite down on the BPMs, bite down on your professional advisors, and go out and be inquisitive and ask for help. Guys, thanks for coming in. It's been a bloody enlightening chat for me, and I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to sharing this where our listeners can pick up on some of those things that you guys have shared. Thank you. If you've enjoyed the episode, subscribe, like and follow where you get all your podcasts. Give us a review and find us at lasergroup.co.nz. And here's to another 25 years.
0800 Get Laser.